Hello, we're the co-CEOs of 3Play Media. I'm Chris Antunes and have Josh Miller here as well. This is now an annual tradition. We look into the crystal ball each year at about this time and make a few predictions about the next year's video accessibility landscape. So we have 7 exciting predictions for you this year.
All right.
Josh, for number one.
Number one. The government will move quickly ahead of the next election cycle to make decisions on proposed laws, including the ADA updates, the CVTA, and FCC updates around accessibility requirements and the use of the AI. So we have an administration right now that is really in tune with accessibility requirements and the need to make sure that our laws are in tune with that. The ADA, for example, is several decades old now and needs to be brought up to date with today's digital reality. The CVTA is an extension of the CVAA and related to a number of the FCC regulations. And all of these are coming together to really look at, when it comes to video accessibility, what is good enough, what are the requirements, how much content should be accessible, and then what is the role of AI in all this? Is AI actually a viable solution? So we're looking forward to these decisions and expect to see some very real changes in the next few months.
It's a great segue to prediction number 2, which is that 2024 will be an evolutionary rather than a revolutionary year for AI. So what do we mean? Obviously, 2023 saw an explosion of new AI-based models. Obviously impossible to perfectly predict this, but in 2024, we expect this to be about integrating these models now that they're ubiquitous, and integrating them securely, responsibly, ethically, and in a high-quality manner, right? And the companies that win will focus on great user experience and, again, supervising these models in a secure and high quality manner.
All right, tied to the AI conversation. Number 3, dubbing will finally arrive as a viable globalization path in the corporate space. All right, so what does that mean? Some of the models that Chris was just referring to around voice quality and voice AI capabilities really make it possible for dubbing to be applied to more video and to do it in a way that is actually decent enough for human consumption and is cheap enough for it to actually be a viable path for video publishers. Because in the past, dubbing has been extremely expensive, and this offers a new opportunity for different types of content to be dubbed so that they can be consumed in different ways and potentially more engaging ways around the world.
Switching gears for prediction number 4, the NAD versus SiriusXM lawsuit will be resolved in 2024 and will not only establish precedent in the podcast space, but also on acceptance of ASR. So for those who've been following along with this lawsuit, it got started at the end of 2021. There have been starts and stops. The next major milestone internally in the case is scheduled for May right now. So we do sort of optimistically expect this to be resolved by end of year, one way or another. Obviously, there are hundreds of millions of podcast episodes a year, and it's a growing segment. So this is a critical lawsuit for setting precedent and sort of the ground rules for this massive and growing industry and how the deaf and hard of hearing community will be able to or not engage in this medium. We also think this sets important precedent for, again, how and when it's responsible to use full automation, so ASR in this case. Because of the scale, we certainly don't expect all 300-400 million episodes of podcasts to be fully transcribed professionally every year, but expect some to require that. So again, we're following along to see exactly what these rules will look like.
So I certainly have a few podcast favorites that I hope will be transcribed soon, but I'm sticking on the international game here with number 5. Production studios and major streaming providers will turn more and more to international content and distribution opportunities. So we started to see this a little bit this year, Netflix being front and center in their international studio work and actually producing content abroad. Some of this is definitely spurred by the actors and writers strikes and what happens when you're stuck with content or kind of stuck in a domestic production cycle. You need to figure out how can we either distribute what we already have or start producing content elsewhere. So I think we're going to start to see this more. Certainly the streaming capabilities that we've seen over the last few years enables this much more. It's much easier to distribute content around the world. It's much easier for us in the US to consume content from other places. So it's a very real and viable opportunity for publishers to pursue.
So picking up on that dubbing theme, prediction number 6. With AI improvements in voice output and image description that we saw in 2023, we'll see AI-powered solutions emerge for accessibility products like ASL, dubbing, image description, and audio description. So AI has been available, widely used in driving efficiency in captioning and transcription and in translation, with machine translation, for years now, right, in some form. The quality just wasn't there yet in the scale in these other areas, and we're starting to see that tipping point, right, where these solutions on a standalone basis maybe don't work fully automated, but vendors like 3Play can start to consider including these in their workflows. And it seems that customers are starting to have more and more acceptance of these tools. So we'll see. Again, the jury's out. We'll see more and more focus, I think, on the emergence of these tools in these other areas, again, like ASL, dubbing, image description, and audio description in 2024.
All right, so we've had a number of predictions around the market and technology and capabilities and kind of where the market's going. This last one is about the users. So number 7, Gen Z students and employees will expect closed captioning by default to be present in all videos they consume. So what are we talking about here? I mean, the reality is that today's college student is digitally and accessibility native. They are used to seeing content with captions available on all the streaming providers because it's now almost by default available. And they're used to using them as well. And so when they go into the classroom and they see that they have video available in their classroom, they expect that captions are available. Related to that is that many students have unreported disabilities. In fact, we're seeing it in the workplace as well. And so there's a study done by the Center for Talent Innovation that showed that 30% of working professionals have a disability, but only 3.2% are reporting a disability. So there's a lot of people with hidden disabilities and cognitive disabilities that actually would benefit greatly from having things like closed captioning and transcripts available with their content. And we're going to start to see that request actually come up more and more, and that there's going to be more of an expectation for content to be accessible at all times. So that's it. That's our 7 for 2024. Hopefully we can look back at this time next year and see how many we got right. But we're really excited for the year, and I think there's a lot of great momentum in this space.
Absolutely. Always fun, Josh.